So what am I looking for in a light mech? Ideally, building that Tactica checklist, making sure as I incorporate lights into a lance, if it's a dedicated scout lance or perhaps joining a attack lance, what are those attributes? What are those things that make a good light a good light? Now, of course, look, I'd like everything. I want big guns for the tonnage. I want massive speed. I want massive jump. I want massive armor. You don't have any of that choice, especially on a light mech. You start to get it on a medium because now we're boosting the tonnage up. You've got it on a heavy. You've definitely got it on an assault. But light mechs are about compromise everywhere. And it's like, here's 4 things and maybe you can have half of it. But it has its place. And some light mechs are very, very deadly, very, very effective, even just beyond a scout role. You know, we're looking at the Jenner. A Jenner is a fearsome machine. We're looking at the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie's got tremendous bite. It can take on and engage a lot higher than its tonnage weight class. Of course, you have to be careful because that return fire could very well cripple you at a minimum or most likely destroy you. So the first thing I'm looking for lights, and we're talking about generalized light machines. What you'll see in Battletech are, for the new players, 3 general categories of mechs across light, medium, heavy, and assault. First is the generalized aspect of the mech. You know, random light mech, this is how it functions. Then there's specialized mechs where we're going to take the battle value and it's going to do a very, very specific role. You know, like the Valkyrie is a long-range missile support mech on a light chassis. And then the third classification are just these like really, really oddball mechs when you look through the tech manual. Let's take a large laser because it's got damage and range and we have tonnage, and let's mount it on something that is so fast it can be anywhere on the table, pretty much in range instantly, but it has 0 armor. Like infantry will take this thing out. So from that perspective, or let's make a light mech that just fights infantry. Wait, what? It doesn't have any armor. If you go into a hornet's nest of infantry, they're just going to chew you up, regardless of how many machine guns or flamethrowers you have. Light mechs do not like infantry, but you see this, where you have very, very oddball machines. We're looking at that first checklist. Generalized light mechs. The first thing, speed. We need the speed. The speed keeps you alive because hopefully you're out of range, or if you're in range, you're moving so fast that it's going to be hard to hit you. If you do get in trouble, you can get the heck out of there. Speed is also important because depending on the role of the light mech, it could be for indirect fire, recon, spotting. It could be for skirmishing. You know, you run up there with the Valkyrie, fire off a bunch of missiles, run away. Run to the next point, fire off some missiles, run away. Or in certain circumstances, working as a lance, hanging back out of range, but still engaged with the lance. And then at the last moment, when everyone's engaged, running forward and getting rear armor, right? Hanging back with that Jenner, committing with your other lance mates, get the mediums and the heavies up there. Then once everyone's engaged, you run that Jenner right through the mix and get rear armor against your opponent, eating those lasers and missiles. So from that perspective, speed, absolutely. Speed, number one, even above and beyond armor. There are some light mechs that are very heavily armored, but you're for the tonnage, but that's just it. You're going up against the tonnage. You can only slap on so much after the core, engine, heat sinks, sensors, just the core build, the core tonnage, just to get that skeletal structure. Then you got to pop on some sort of weapon. And then that leads to, there's just never enough armor. Even the heavily armored light mechs, there's not enough armor. So I want speed. Fritz, the urban mech, right? Again, Irby is like a number 2. Irby is a very, very specialized role. I mean, he's the slowest in the game. The only thing as slow as him is a behemoth, heavy 100-ton tank. I mean, Irby steps on top of the 100-ton tank and they roll together. I mean, that perspective. So Irby is in that category too. We're looking at kind of generalized. So I will take speed above armor, but I'd like armor. Weapons, I'm looking for one primary weapon. A primary weapon for a light mech is a good old tried and true medium laser. I'd like maybe something else in there, like the Jenner, or perhaps something like the LRM and the medium laser of the Valkyrie, exploring that perspective. But a lot of the light mechs that you see will have a primary and secondary of medium laser and machine guns, medium laser and small lasers, medium laser SRM 2-pack that will complement each other. But I want at least that medium laser. Now, there are some specialized mechs like the Panther that's going to mount that PPC. You see a few with a large laser. Those are out there. What I look for those criteria is, do they at least have some speed? I don't need when I say speed, I want it to be very, very fast. There's some mechs out there, like the Locust is very, very fast. I'm not saying everything's got to be Locust speed, but it needs to be a classification of speed that's acceptable for the light mech. As soon as I mount on some of those heavier weapons, it moves out from the first category to maybe the second. So I have to see, or the third, is it like a quirk type mech? How does that utilize? But for that light mech checklist, speed, absolute speed, and jump jets. And if it doesn't have jump jets, it needs absolute speed. A lot of light mechs will have the jump jets, but there's some very effective mechs like the Locust that don't have the jump jets. The other aspect to look at, and this is part of a bigger discussion, but it's important for light mechs. In Battletech, variants are very, very important. Yes, you could take a Locust and build out your own weapons platform, but with the light mechs, there are some variants that are better than the original. Or perhaps in the narrative, when they designed original, it was around this aspect, and then as it evolved, the variant is much better. So be open to exploring those variants. Perfect example, the Locust variant with the short-range missiles. I play, it's much more effective because the machine guns, what are they really going to do? And machine guns going against infantry means my Locust is really close. And I don't want to, infantry never travel together. It's never just one stand. You're flooding the table with multiple stands. So to go up and machine gun one, I'm going to blitz them and blow them away. But then I'm going to eat 3 or 4 stands of return fire at point blank range, full platoons. They're going to shred my Locust. So it's kind of like, I understand the narrative of giving it machine guns, but there are some variants that absolutely are I should always be playing this. Be open to that. Where when we move into mediums, heavies, and assaults, some variants are better, but even the stock is more enough. And some variants offer a tweak in a different direction. But with the lights, you really got to look at some of those different variants and see how they play out. That's a little bit outside of the scope of this vlog, but as you explore it, it could possibly change the criteria of your light mech.